So, I think I'm just going to go live whenever I have these thoughts. Just take them out of my head. So, I was thinking about how when you're a child, you're taught the phrase, I love you. You were taught, your mom loves you, your dad loves you, your aunt, your uncle, your siblings, whatever. You're taught that they love you. But you're then told when you're a teenager, what do you know about love? You're too young to know about love. How can you know you love this person that you're seeing? How can you know that you're in love? But we're supposed to understand the concept of it when we're children. I say this because I distinctly remember, and I think I mentioned this in my last life, being asked, did I miss my dad when I don't see him for a couple of weeks? And I didn't. Never did. Still don't. Will not. But you're taught, you learn the phrase. You learn the phrase, I love you. You learn to tell people, I love you. But at what point do you know what that really means and that's how you feel? Because some people can take, if you're in a relationship, it can take 6 months before you're ready to say I love you. It can take even longer before you realize that you're really deeply in love with someone. Whether or not there's a difference between loving someone and being in love in that context of a relationship, I don't know if there's much of a difference there. I say this only because I got dumped and the person told me that they loved me but they weren't in love with me. So I don't know if there's a difference or if that was just their crappy excuse. But how can we be expected to know how we feel about things and say things with conviction and, emotion behind it when you're then getting into your teenage life and being told you don't know what that means? You're too young to know that. But I'm old enough to know that I love you. The phrase I love you has always been an empty phrase to me. As at least in the concept of as a child saying to people, it never really meant much. I've said it in relationships, but even then, the first time someone said it to me in a relationship, it wasn't really, there wasn't any weight behind it. And I know why, and it makes sense. But I've since had other people that I've dated say that they think they're falling in love with me after one date. I've had people very clearly show that they had much stronger feelings for me than I did for them. For me, they were still date one kind of feelings, whereas they were 6 months, 9 months down the line feelings that they had for me. And I was like, I'm not ready for this. No. I'm still deciding. But I knew in my heart that something wasn't right because I would get into these states of panic and stress and freaking out and crying on the phone to my friends. I just would be so I don't know what's going on here. It just doesn't feel right. It feels like they're 20 steps ahead and I'm behind. I feel like I'm supposed to be catching up, but then what if I don't ever catch up? I don't understand how to deal with this. And when I've had those feelings before, I did eventually call it quits. And the second time I had those feelings, I tried to call it quits several times and they made me feel like shit for it. I don't like being the first one to dump people. It seems all the people I'm dumping just made me feel like shit. That's not true. Only one of them did. But I understood that I did not have these big feelings for this person, for any of these people. There was a period of time where my friends would all say to each other, oh, I love you, and it was something I'd never really done before in a platonic sense, but I was surrounded by a group of people who did use it in a platonic way, but I also knew that whenever they said it to like each other, that it wasn't in a platonic way because they were dating. So it was, but they said it to me, so I was like, yeah, okay, we're always going to say it to each other. And there was a period where we didn't speak, and it felt like, sort of for myself, I felt like that I couldn't say that phrase anymore. That phrase wasn't really in our vocab, in it being used in a platonic sense anymore. The person who kind of introduced that wasn't there anymore. At least from my understanding of who introduced it, and it was just something I wasn't really hearing as much. And I also felt like I had to like earn that feeling back, like, yeah. So it left my vocabulary. I very quickly stopped writing it, even regardless of the situation with my friends. I very quickly stopped writing cards saying love you. I would always write from, if it was to my dad or my gran, especially if it was to my brother. But like that, I could never say that to my family. And it's gone to a point where I go to say it and I catch myself. I'm like, no, you don't want to. You don't want to overuse it. I don't want the phrase to become meaningless. But it then means that I hold back from saying it, and then sometimes I say it thinking like, yeah, it's a good idea, and then I regret it like that night. I'm like, oh, this is a bad idea. I shouldn't have done that. Like, it was too soon. All this stuff, even though others have expressed those feelings towards me, I was like, I don't know. And it always makes me a bit uncomfortable when people message me that, they send me a text saying that, or we're on a phone call and they go to say that, I'm like, and it's nothing towards them personally, not at all. It's just I have a discomfort with that phrase. It's the same thing with phrases like, I'm sorry for your loss. I don't understand that phrase. Because I don't understand why you're saying I'm sorry. You didn't do anything. When someone in your life passed away and your friends, family are all like, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss, I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds more like they're not apologizing for their actions. Like, because it's not their actions unless they killed the person. But like, it's not their fault, so why are they apologizing? So I know that social conduct means that you would say those phrases, but I can't. Ever since I started to question that phrase, you could not convince me to say that to somebody. I will try and comfort them in any other way, but that I know that that's the phrase I'm supposed to say, but I can't make those words. I can't say them. I can't in that context, because it just feels false. It doesn't feel authentic in that there's any weight behind those words, and it's a similar feeling to saying I love you when it's not like a big deal. I don't know if it's I don't know why that is. I don't know where it stems from. I don't even think my first relationship we ever said it, but we were only together for like just under 2 months. And with the second relationship, I'd say it wasn't a natural progression of how it happened, but like I understand how it happened and why it did, so I can't really fault that. And then everyone since then has been, I'd say, like 20 steps ahead, and I'm like, we're buddies. We're buddies, you know. Should have been red flag number one though. As soon as I realized that, break up with them. I understand. I don't know if I've ever been in love or if I've just been deeply infatuated with somebody, because that's what I can equate to the second guy I ever dated. As far as where everything was going fine, everything was great, but I don't know if that's what I was feeling. But it's the closest I can imagine I felt to being in love. But it's hard to say. How much of understanding I have of recognizing when I feel love. You know? I have said it to a couple of friends in the last year, and it took a long time for me to say it to them. Weirdly enough, when I got home, I was very much aware of, I don't think I said it enough, and I was very much regretting how little I said it in person. And I don't know if that's just an extra being all mushy from like meeting people for the first time, or if it was just like genuinely, I just wish I'd said it more. Because I don't even say it that much with my best friend. Last when I spoke to her before she moved, I said that, I know it's not something I say as much these days anymore, but I want you to know that that's how I feel. But I don't think I say it to her that much anymore. Anyway, again, nothing towards them, but I don't think it's a phrase that I really ever say to anyone. I just kind of really say it when I'm like feeling like really mushy and just like emotional, like overwhelmed with emotion. I can quite like, it's not something I would just casually, like if I was ending a phone call with a friend, but like, okay, cool, bye, I love you. Like I can't imagine myself saying that, and I guess it sounds quite tomboyish, I guess. But I still, going back to like the main point of, we get so much crap off our family, and anyone willing to listen to you when you're young, saying that you love someone. They're like, you don't know what that means. You don't know how true love feels of the stuff. But I apparently have known it when it comes to family. Family love isn't real, in the sense that it's not earned. Just simple as family love isn't earned. You're taught you're supposed to feel this way. Whether or not you're taught what that feeling is, I guess, is dependent on your circumstance. But you're not taught what it is to love your family. You were taught to repeat a phrase. You were taught that, when you say this thing, it's nice. It's a nice little thing to finish off a sentence. It's a nice little thing to say before you go to bed or to end a phone call. But like, you say that to your family. But you don't think you're ever really taught what it is when you say it, because you see it on TV all the time. People they always just, oh, love you, bye, cool. Sometimes like if they've had to call someone back and he keeps cutting off, they'll say after every time they end the call, and it's just, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. I don't really know. It's like with, I think it's standardized testing in schools when you're taught more to memorize things than you are to think for yourself and understand the curriculum. Instead, you're just being taught how to answer the questions. Like I remember we were struggling to understand the concept of surds in maths, and our teacher struggled to explain the concept so much to us that she just gave up. She gave up on us as a class and just didn't teach us the curriculum. She moved on to another subject. And then when exam season came around and they discovered that it was going to be on the quiz, suddenly she had the time and the energy to find a new method to teach her students and be able to understand it. Couldn't tell you what the fuck it's about now, but she found another method to teach us. But she wasn't teaching us something that we can apply in life. She was teaching us how to answer a question. A question that we were only going to get asked about in our exams. Like, that's a whole other thing about, like, some of the subjects in school that make no sense as to why the fuck we learn them, why they're part of your standard learning. You're not allowed to opt out of these classes. You have to take them. Which has been an argument for, like every generation. Boy in a band is a good example of, our school system has failed us. Not that he's a representation of failed school system, but just the song rap he did. That's a good example. Like, he covers a lot of that subject. But yeah, you can't expect someone to understand a subject when all you do is teach them how to repeat it back. Like, I remember in college we were learning about this printing process, and every time we had this class, he would, for the first half of the class, tell us all about this machine and the inks in this process. And then after our break, when we came back, we'd do a test, and he would pretty much just hand out a sheet with all the answers on it. Like, what was the point of standing there taking notes? What was the point in us even standing here listening to it if you're literally going to hand us the answers right after the break? To the point that after the first class, I think we had the test before the break, half the class walked out. Why were they going to come back for the afternoon? We're not learning. Then we're building up student loans for this. Why would we return to a class that is not teaching us? Why would we return to a class that is just telling us all the things, not requiring us to memorize it or really understand it, but just, oh, you're going to get quizzed in 5 minutes, but if you don't know the answer, here's the answers. It was ridiculous. And their response to us was, okay, well, we're not going to mark you. If you're not here for the full class, we're not going to mark you as here. We're going to do registration after break. And like, I'm sorry, but fine. I will show up to your class, and I'm not going to pay attention, because what is the point? I could pay attention and I could not, and I will get the same result because you're handing me the answer sheet. And I'm building our student loans. That's great. Like, I'm very much getting off topic, but you know what I mean? Like, sorry. I thought of a friend. You can't, basically what I'm trying to say is, you can't turn around and tell kids, teenagers, that they don't know what love is, they don't understand these feelings, when you've expected them to say that they love you their whole life. You've expected them to understand that you love them. Why is it they can understand it at home, but they can't understand it out in the real world? At what age does that home life understanding expand into reality? Because they're not going to be home forever. Believe me, they will leave eventually, and they're going to have a very skewed understanding of the world and what it means to express yourself to someone. I mean, my God, like it's not uncommon that a lot of guys don't know how to express themselves because they're usually told to like hide emotion at home. Don't cry, don't get upset, just be a tough, strong man. And then if they do understand these feelings and they're told they're sensitive, and they're not. They just have an understanding of the shit that has been shoved in their faces their whole life of like, don't you love your grandma? If you loved your grandma, you wouldn't do this. You'd behave. I don't know, would I? I don't know what that means. You haven't allowed me to like understand what that means as a child. But we can't blame you when we're teenagers and you say that we don't understand what love is. You can't pick and choose when we know what it means. It's not fair. And it's not how that works. Just simple as.